Testing, testing. Okay, alright, let's move into 50%. OSHA, construction, demolition, cleanup, safety issues, collection, OSHA, quick cards, fact sheets related to hazards associated with construction, demolition, cleanup. Construction, 1, construction hazards, top 4, supportive scaffold safety, supportive scaffold inspection, trenching, excavation, safety, working on safety safely in trenches, demolition, demolition safety, demolition cleanup, and cleanup protection work, asbestos hazard, protection workers from lead hazard related construction, falls. Preventing falls to record residential construction, fall protection, general industry, reducing falls during residential construction, installation, roof trusses, reducing falls during residential construction, installing tile roofs, reducing falls during residential construction, roof repair, electricity, working safely with electricity, working safely around, down, electrical wires, electrical safety, hazards overloading cable trays, respiratory infection control, respirators versus surgical masks, miscellaneous pneumatic nail gun, chainsaw safety, the cold stress equation. Alright, OSHA quick cards. Top four construction hazards are the construction facility fatalities, falls struck by, caught in between, and electrocutions. Prevent falls. Wear and use personal fall arrest equipment. Install main perimeter protection cover and secure floor openings and label the floor opening covers. Use ladder scaffold safely. Prevent struck by never position yourself between moving and fixed objects. Wear heavily visibility clothes near the equipment and vehicles. Prevent caught in between. Never enter unprotected trench excavation 5 feet or deeper without an adequate protective system in place. Some of the trenches under 5 feet deep may also be needed to divert such system. Make sure your trench excavation is protected either by a sloping, shoring, wrenching, or trenching shield system. Prevent electrocution. Locate, identify utilities before starting work. Look for overhead power lines when operating in equipment. Maintain safe distance away from power lines. Learn safe distance requirements. Do not operate portable electrical tools unless they are grounded, double insulated. Use ground fault circuit interrupters for protection. Be alert with electrical hazards when working with ladders, scaffolds, other platforms. OSHA quick cards, supported scaffold safeties. Supported scaffold consists of one or more platforms supported with the outrigger beams, brackets, poles, legs, uprights, posts, frames, and similar rigid support. Guardrails on personal fall arrestor systems for fall prevention protection are required for workers on platforms 10 feet or higher. Planks are to be overlapped on support at least 6 inches, but not more than 12 inches. Leg posts of the frames and poles uprights must be on base plates, mud sills, or firm foundation. Be properly aligned and braced. Alright, it shows your girder rails flat planked, access gate, plumb vertical, access ladder, base plates, mud sills, cross braces. Scaffold user training must include with the hazard type of the scaffold being used, maximum intended load and capacity, recognizing reporting defects, fall hazards, electrical hazards, including overhead lines, falling objects, hazards, other hazards that may be encountered. And then this one's in Spanish. OSHA quick card supported scaffold. Inspect scaffold parts daily before each of the work shifts after the event that may be caused damage. Check to see if the power lines are near scaffold. Any de-energized near scaffolds are de-energized. The scaffolds are at least 10 feet away from the energized power lines. Make sure the tools and materials are at least 10 feet away from the energized power lines. Verify the scaffold is the correct type of loads and materials, workers, weather conditions. Check footings to see if the levels sound rigid and capable of supporting load scaffold. Show the cross braces and then the guardrails and toe boards, fully planked access gate, plumb vertical base plate, mud sills. Check leg post frames, uprights to see if they are on the base plate. Check metal components of the bends, cracks, holes, rust, welding, splatter pits, broken welds, non-compatible parts. Check for safe access. Do not use cross braces as ladders or for an exit of the access or exit. Alright, check wooden planks for the crack splits greater than 1/4 inch, end splits that are long, made large loose knots, marked warps greater than 1/4 inch boards, ends gouges, mold separated laminates, and grain sloping greater than 1 inch 12 inches. from long edge and scaffold grade lumber or equivalent. If the planks deflects the span of or 2 inches in front of the 10-foot wooden plank has been damaged and must not be used. Check to see if the planks can closely together with the spaces no more than 1 inch around uprights. Check to see 10-foot or shorter planks are 6 to 12 inches over the center line of the support, and the 10-foot longer planks are no more than 18 inches over the end. Check to see if the platform is 14 inches or less from the wall, 18 inches from less away with the plastering stucco. Check for the guardrails, mid-rails on the platforms where the work is being done. Check the workers on the platform. Provide the fall object protection barricade the area. Make sure that the hard hats are worn. Use brace tie-downs guying as described by the scaffold manufacturer and vertically and horizontally to prevent tipping. Alright, it shows the maximum vertical tie spacing wider than 3 foot on the bases, and then it shows top scaffold platform uppermost not exceed 4-to-1 ratio, 26 foot maximum between the intermediate ties, 4 times minimum base tie closet frame header, and first tie closet frame header and bearer above 4 times the minimum base dimension, wider than 3 foot at the minimum base. Alright, OSHA fact sheet. Trenching excavation safety. 2 workers are killed every month with a trench collapse. The employer must provide with the workplace and free of recognized hazards that may cause serious injury or death. The employer must comply with the trenching excavation requirement of Title 29 CFR 19.226, 651, 1926, 652, and comparable to OSHA approved state plan requirements. Excavation made in a man-made cut in a cavity trench depression in earth surfaces formed by earth removal. Trench excavation means a narrow excavation in relation to its length and made below the surface of the ground in general depth greater than width, but the width of the trench measured at the bottom is no greater than 15 feet. Dangers of trenching excavation. Cave-ins pose the greatest risk of it is much more likely the excavation related to accidents result of the workplace, worker fatalities. Other potential hazards include falling loads, hazard atmosphere, incident involving the mobile equipment. One of the cubic yard console swell can weigh as much as a car, and unprotected trenches early grave do not enter unprotected trench. Trench safety measures. Trench 5 feet or deeper or greater require protective systems unless excavation is made entirely with stable rock and is less than 5 feet deep. Competent person may determine that the protective system is not required. Trenches 20 feet and deeper or greater require protective system may be designed with a registered professional engineering, may be based on tabulated data prepared and approved by the registered professional engineer in accordance with the 1926-652 B and C. Competent person. OSHA standards requires any employer to inspect the trenches daily with a condition change with a competent person before the work entry into the ensure eliminating excavation hazards. Component person is an individual who is capable of identifying existing predictable hazards in working conditions, hazards unsanitary and dangerous to worker, soil types, and protective systems required who is authorized to take the prompt and corrective measures to eliminate these hazards and conditions. Access and egress. OSHA standards require safe access and egress to all excavations, including ladder steps, ramps, and other safety means that exist of exits for employees who working in trenches excavation 4 foot deep or deeper. The device must be located 25 feet off all the workers. General trenching excavation rules. Keep heavy equipment away from trench edges. Identify other sources that might affect the trench stability. Keep the excavated soil, spoils, other materials at least 2 feet from the trench edges. Knowing the underground utilities are located before digging. Test atmospheric hazards such as low oxygen, hazard fumes, and toxic gases when less than 4 feet deep. And greater than 4 feet deep. Inspect trenches to the start each of the shift. Inspect trenches following the rainstorm, other water intrusions. Now work under suspended or raised loads and the materials. Inspect trenches, any occurrence that could have changed conditions in the trench. Ensure the person will wear high visibility, other suitable clothing when exposed to vehicle or traffic. Protective system. There are different types of protective systems. Benching means a method of protecting workers from cave-in by excavating the sides of a excavation to form one of the series of the horizontal level of the steps, usually with a near vertical surface between the levels. Of benching cannot be done in type C soil. Sloping involves cutting back the trench wall at the angle of the incline away from the excavation. Shoring requires insulating aluminum, hydraulic, other types of support to prevent soil movement in cave-ins. Shielding protects workers by using trench boxes, other types of support to prevent the soil cave-in design protective system can be complex because you can be considered many of the factors: soil classification, depth of the cut, water of the content of the soil, cause change by weather of the climate, surface change, other material to be used in the trench, other application vicinity, additional information, OSHA safety health topic web page. There's one of the serious information fact sheets highlighting OSHA program policy standards. It does not impose with any of the new compliance requirements. The comprehensive list of compliance requirements of the OSHA standards regulations refer to Title 29 Code Federal Regulations. This information will be made available to senior impaired individuals upon request of the voice. Phone is 202-693-1999. Teletypewriter 877-889-5627. Alright, OSHA quick card working safely in trenches. To workers killed every month of the trench collapse, every worker of the trench shall be protected with a cave and by the adequate protective system. Some of the protective systems of the trenches are slope for stability, cut in the created with a step beyond grades type A and B soil only. Supported by systems which are made materials such as post beams and shores and planking, hydraulic jacks. Shield by trench workbox and protect workers in the trench. Excavated other materials equipment that must be at least 2 feet back of the edge of the trench. Shows the 2 feet more safe way to exit must be provided within 25 feet of the workers in the trench. Competent person must inspect trenches daily and work when conditions change. Unprotected trenches and early grave do not enter an unprotected trench. And then it goes into the Spanish version of that. Demolition safety. Demolition work involves many of the same hazards for the areas during the other construction activities. However, the demolition involves additional hazards due to a variety of other factors. Some of these include lead-based paint, sharp protruding objects, and asbestos-containing material. Your brace or shore up of the walls, floors, and structures which have been damaged within the employees must enter with the inspected personal protective equipment before use. Select where of the use and appropriate personal protective equipment for the task. Inspect all stairs, passageways, ladders, illuminating all stairways. Shut off all cap, electrical, gas, water, steam, sewer, and other service lines. Notify the appropriate utility companies. Guard wall openings to a height of 42 inches. Cover the secure of the floor openings material able to withstand the loads likely to be imposed. Floor openings of the material disposal must be not more than 25% of the total floor area. The unenclosed chutes of the gates of the discharge to drop the demolition material to the ground into the debris containing the demolition. Exterior walls, floors must be banged. Tops of the structure perceive the downward structural load supporting members of any of the floor must not be cut, removed until all the stores above the floor have been removed. All roof and cornices, other ornamental stonework, and must be removed prior to pulling wall down. Employees must not be permitted to work where the structural collapse hazard exists until they are corrected by shore, spacing, and other effective means. Then it goes in the Spanish version of that. Alright, demolition and cleanup. Before starting demolition, a person is in charge must adequately prepare a task with regard to the health and safety of the workers. These preparatory operations involve overall planning of the demolition job, including the methods of the use to bring down the structure down, the equipment necessary to do the job of the measure to be taken to perform the work safely before demolition work, inspect available the personal protective equipment, select where and use of the personal protective equipment appropriate for the task. Demolition works involve many of the same safe and hazards associated with the construction work. However, the demolition also poses additional hazards due to the unknown factor of the deviation of the structure or original design. Approved or unapproved modifications loaded with the original design materials hidden within the structural members. Unknown strength of the weakness of the damaged materials to counter those unknown. All personnel involved with the demolition project need to be fully aware of all the types of the safety precautions available to control these hazards. For your preliminary task, a written engineer survey must be performed at each of the structure being constructed for the demolition to determine the condition of the framing, floors, and wall, of the access, for the possibility of the unplanned collapse of any of the portion of the structure, brace, or shoes of the walls and floors and the structures which have been damaged. With its employees must enter for the inspector to maintain all stairways and passageways and ladders, properly illuminate all stairways, shut off and cap all electrical, gas, water, steam, sewer, and other surface lines to the outside of the building line. Notify appropriate utility command companies to temporarily relocate, protect any of the essential power, water, and other utilities. Determine the type of the hazard chemical, the gas, explosive, the flammable materials which have been used, the pipe, the tanks, other equipment on the property. Test and purge of the hazard chemical, the gas, explosion, flammable materials. Survey for the asbestos, other hazard material. Guard wall opens to a height of 42 inches. The covered secure of the floor opens with the materials able to withstand loads likely to be imposed. Debris dropped through holes in the floor without the use of chutes must be complete with covers. Barricades not less than 42 inches high, but not less than 6 feet, with the back of the projected edge of the opening of the above. The floor opens with the material to disposable and must not be more than 25% of the total floor opening. Use enclosed chutes with gates that discharge into the drop material to the ground and design construction chutes with the weight of the sand with the loads likely to be imposed without falling. Post signs at each level of the structure with a warning of the hazard for the falling material to protect entry for the multi-story structure for the sidewalk sheds of the canopies of the minimum 8 feet, but the canopies must be at least 2 feet wider than the structure and trees to be able to hold a load of 150 pounds square foot. Stable storage material debris must not exceed allowable floor load. Moving the walls and masonry section, demolition exterior walls and floors must begin at the top of the structure and proceed downward. Masonry walls must not be permitted to fall on the floors or in the building. In masses that would exceed the safe carrying capacity of the floor, no wall section a story high or higher shall be permitted to stand without the lateral bracing unless such of the walls were originally designed constructed to stand without lateral support. Unsafe enough to be self-supporting, all walls must be left into the stable condition at the end of each work shift. Employees shall not work on the top of the wall with weather conditions create hazards. Structural and load supporting members of any of the floor must not be cut and removed until all the stories of the above the such floor have been removed. And building skeleton steel construction steel framing may be left in place during the demolition of the masonry. Walkways without ladders must be provided with able to work through to safely reach and leave any scaffolded walls which serve as a retaining wall to support other adjoining structures must not be demolished until supporting earth that had been properly braced and adjoining structure had been properly underpinned. Walls which serve the retaining walls against the debris which will be piled must be even less capable of supporting imposed load. Dismantle steel construction column length by column length and tier by tier. Alright, mechanical demolition. No worker shall be permitted in any area of the work using a crane headache ball with a clamshell to remove the debris. Only workers necessary to perform such operations must be permitted to the work area at any time of the wave of the demolition ball must not exceed 50% of the crane-rated load. Crane and bottom load line must be at the short as possible. The ball must be attached with the load with a swivel type of connection. French twisting of the load line, it must be attained with the positive means in such a manner that the wave that cannot become accidentally disconnected. When pulling over the wall, the portion thereof of any all steel members effective must have previously been cut free. All roof and corners other than ornamental stonework must be removed prior to the pulling wall over during the demolition. Continuing inspection by competent person shall be made of the work of the progressive of the detect hazard resulting from weakened, deteriorated floor or walls or loosened material. No employee shall be permitted to work on such hazards exist until they are corrected by shore or bracing other effective means. This is one of the series of informational fact sheets of OSHA program policy standard that doesn't employ with the new compliance requirements for the comprehensive lift of the compliance requirement OSHA standard regulations refer to Title 29 Code regulations. Information made available to sensory impaired individuals upon request. Verify phone number 202-693-1999. Tell typewriter 877-889-5627. Alright, OSHA fact sheet. Protecting workers from asbestos hazards. Cleaning up the flood requires hundreds of workers to renovate, with repair, tear down, dispose of the damaged and destroyed structures. Materials, however, the repair, renovation, and demolition operations to generate the airborne asbestos mineral fiber that causes chronic lung disease, cancer. The Occupational Safety Health Administration has developed regulations designed to protect cleanup work from asbestos hazards. How can you become exposed to the asbestos? Before you know the inhalation of asbestos fibers causes several deadly diseases, including asbestos progressive and often fatal lung disease. Along with the other cancers, asbestos was used in a large number of the building materials and other products because of its strength, flame-resistant insulation properties. Asbestos was used in the asbestos cement pipes, sheeting, floor and roofing felts, drywall, floor tiles, spray, on-ceiling coatings, packaged material. When building containing these materials renovated or tore down when the asbestos containing the material themselves is disturbed many of the asbestos fiber that may be released in the air. The fibers are so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eye, and the fact that you can inhale these fibers without knowing it makes asbestos an even more dangerous job. OSHA standards and asbestos, the work of the flood cleanup of the personnel involved with the repair of the renovation of the removal of the demolition, salvage of the floor, damage of the structure of the materials, such as the materials may certainly be covered with the asbestos cleanup of the personnel with the protected OSHA construction industry asbestos standard Title 29 Code Regulation 1926-1101. The standard requires that the employer to follow various procedures to protect the employee from inhaling asbestos fiber. The standards contain many requirements of the variety depending on the kind of the work being undertaken with the amount of the asbestos in the air. The other factors you can use and your employer contain a competent standard of the booklet Asbestos Standards Construction OSHA 3096, describing how to comply from the OSHA publication P.O. Box 37535, Washington, D.C. 213-7535, 202-693-18888, or 202-693-2498. Fax. Visit the OSHA website, osha.gov. Major elements of OSHA asbestos standards. The following include some of the major requirements of the asbestos standard. For the complete information with all the requirements, Title 29 CFR 1926-1101. Permissible exposure weight limit is 0.1 fiber per cubic centimeter of air as average over an 8-hour period, with an excursion limit of the 1.0 asbestos fibers per cubic centimeter over a 30-minute period. Requirements for the initial exposure assessment of the certain expected exposures during the working operation, periodic exposure monitoring on certain instances. Alright, using engineer control to the extent of the feasible to meet the permissible exposure limited with the possible. The engineer control must be used to reduce the exposure to the lowest level of the possible and supplemented by the use of appropriate respirator protection. Use of regulated air limited except for the location where the asbestos concentration may be dangerously high. No smoking, eating, drinking in asbestos regulated areas. Requirement of warning signs with a caution label to identify with the communicate with the present hazards with the hazardous material road record keeping the medical surveillance. Additional information for more information on this other health related issues impacting worker, visit OSHA.gov and then the OSHA fact sheet. Protecting workers from lead. Cleanup of the flood requires cleanup after a flood requires hundreds of the workers renovated with the repair, tear down, the dispose of the damage, destroy the structure of the material of the repair with renovating demolition operation generate dangerous airborne concentration of the lead with the metal that can cause the damage of the nervous system, the kidney, the blood forming organs, reproductive system, and inhale with the ingested dangerous quantity. With the Occupational Safety Health Administration has developed regulations protecting the protected workers involved with the construction activity that has lead exposure. How can you become an exposure to lead? Lead ingredient in thousands of productive products widely used throughout the industry, including with lead-based paint, lead solder with electrical fitting of the conductivity, tank lines, plumbing fixtures, many metal alloys. Although many UV leads have been banned and lead-based paints continue to be used on bridges, railway, shipyards, other steel structures because it is rust, corrosion, inhibiting properties. Many hopes of the painting with lead-containing paints. Significant lead exposure can also occur when paint is removed from the surface previously covered with lead-based paint. Operations generated with the dust and fumes include the demolition structure of the flame, torch, cutting, welding, using heat gun, sander, scrapers with grinders to remove lead paint, abrasive blasting, and steel structure. OSHA regulations govern the construction work exposure to lead with employers with the construction worker engaged with the repair of the renovation, removal, demolition, salvage of floor, damaged structure. Materials are responsible for developing implementation work protection program in accordance with the Title 29 Code Federal Regulation 1926-62. This program is essential to minimize the worker risk of the lead exposure. Construction projects with the scope of the potential for the exposure of the workers to lead and other hazards. Many projects involve the only limited exposure, such as removal of the paint of the fewer interior residential surfaces, while the others may involve a substantial exposure. Employers must be in compliance with the OSHA lead standard and at all times copy the standards brochure lead construction OSHA 3142 that describe and comply with available OSHA publication P.O. Box 37535, Washington, D.C. 213-7535, 202-693 8188 8 202 and 693 2498 fax OSHA government.osha.gov. Major elements of OSHA lead with the stream of the merciful exposure limited with a 50 microgram of lead per cubic per meter of air as average over the 8-hour period. Requirements of the employer of the engineering control of the work practice of the where feasible to reduce the work exposure requirements of the employee of the observe of the good personal hygiene practices such as washing your hands before eating and taking a shower before leaving the work site. Requirements of the employees may provide with the protective clothing where necessary with respiratory protective according to Title 29, 1910, 134. Requirement of the employees exposed with a high level of lead be enrolled in the medical surveillance program. Additional information, more information on this and other health-related issues impacting workers, visit OSHA website at osha.gov. Alright, protect yourself and yourself. Lead in construction. Lead is a common head of the element found with the many of the construction site. Lead exposure comes from the inhaling fumes of dust. Lead can be ingested by hand with the other contaminated by lead dust. Lead can be taken home with the workers' clothes, with the skin and the hair and tools of vehicles. Lead exposures may be in demolition, solve with the removal, the encapsulation, renovation, and cleaning up of the activities. Avoid exposure. Use protective personal protective equipment with the gloves, clothing, and approved respirators. Wash hands, face with afterward before eating, and never eating area where protective air equipment. Wearing protective equipment. Never wear clothes and shoes where they were worn during lead exposure away from the work. Launder clothing daily. Use proper cleaning methods. Be alert of symptoms of the lead exposure: severe abdominal pain, headaches, and loss of motor coordination. Use respirators. Wear appropriate respirators. Directly conduct the use of the seal check with each time the respirator is done. Be aware of your company's respiratory protection. Understand the limitation potential have of the respirator. Prevent further exposure. Ensure adequate ventilation when outdoors. Stand away from the flume, the UV dust collecting equipment when possible. Use the lead materials and chemicals. Use wet methods for the decrease of dust. Use local exhaust ventilation for enclosed worker areas. And then preventing falls. Falls and falling objects can result with the unstable working safe with the ladders are and not safely positioned. Misuse of the fall protection. Workers are all subject to the falls or damage or falling objects on the side of the edges. Floor holes and wall openings are not protected. Anytime the workers are the height of 6 feet or more of the construction of the industry or the 4 feet or more in general industry, the worker must be protected. Fall protection. Fall protection must provide with the employer with the wall working surface with the unprotected side edge with the height of the required with the OSHA standard applicable to the work environment and management is required with the developing and implementing committee with the fall protection program. Provide training of the fall protection program. Evaluate the program on a regular basis to ensure the program effectiveness to determine whether it needs to be changed or updated. Employers are required to access the workplace to determine the wall working surface with the employee with the work with the strength with the structural integrity of the safety support of the workers. Once employers are determined the surface and safety of the employers to work on, the employers must select one of the options of listed in the work operation of if a fall hazard is present. Where protection is required, select with the fall protection system appropriate for the given situation, proper construction, installation of safety system, supervise employees, properly trained workers, the proper selection and use of the maintenance of all fall protection systems. Unprotected side and wall openings and floor holes. Almost all sites have unprotected sides of the edges, wall opening, floor holes at some point during the construction side of the opening with the not protected with the site. Injuries and falls and fall objects may result with the ranging with the sprain with the concussions to death. Use at least one of the following whenever employees are exposed to the fall of 6 feet or more above the lower level of guardrail, safety net system, fall arrest system, covered floor holes as well. They are created, guard covered and opening with the holes immediately. Construction, all floor holes covered would effectively support 2 times the weight of the employed equipment and material that may be imposed with the cover at one time. In general, it's better with the fall protection system such as guardrail, with the fall protection system, safety nets, and fall arresters. Ladders. Your risk of failing at falling is if portable ladders are not safely positioned each time they are used. While on the ladder is moved with a slip or supports, you can use the ladder, but you can lose your balance while getting on and off the unsteady ladder. Falls on ladders can cause injuries ranging from sprain to death. Position portable ladders and side rails extend with at least 3 feet above the landing. Secure side rails from the top of the bridge to support using grab device. A 3-foot extension is not possible. Make sure the weight of the ladder will not cause it to slip it to support before using each inspect ladder for cracked and broken defective parts. Don't apply more weight on the ladder than it is designed to support. Use only ladders to comply with the OSHA standards. And then it goes into fall protection, residential construction. United States Department of Labor, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration directed the residents of the interim involvement of the protection compliant with the guidelines for residential construction STD 03000001 before issuing the new direction. The STD 03000001 allowed employees to engage in certain residential construction activities, specified alternate method of fall protection, slide guard, safety monitoring system, for the conventional fall protection, guardrail safety, and other personal fall arrest systems required with the residential construction fall protection. Title 29, 1926, 501B3 employers could use without first provision, while the conventional fall protection infeasible with created greater hazard without written fall protection plan. With the issuance of the new directive, all the residential construction employers must comply with the Title 29, 1926, 501B13. Residential construction employers generally must ensure that the employees working 6 feet more above the lower levels of the guardrail, safety or nets. Personal fall arrest system. Personal fall arrest system may consist of fall body harness, deceleration device, a land in the yard, of anchor and point. Definition: personal fall arrest system. Title 29, 1926, 500. Other fall protection measures may be to the extent allowed under the provision Title 29, 1926, 501B. Unaddressed specifically table for the work, for example, the 1926, 501B10 permits use of the warning line safety of the monitoring system during the performance of the roof working on low-sloped roofs. OSHA allows use of the effective fall-resistant system in lieu of the personal fall arrest system. To be effective, the fall restraint system must be rigid to prevent worker from reaching falling hazard or falling over. Off the edge, a fall resistance system must consist of the full body harness body belt that is connected with the anchor point with the center of the roof of the lanyard length of which will not allow the worker to physically reach the edge of the roof. If the employer can demonstrate the use of the conventional fall protection method infeasible with a greater hazard, the measure ensure for the qualified personnel create the written specific fall protection plan complying with Title 29. 1926 502K and documents in the plan with the reason why conventional fall protection systems are unfeasible, while they would create the greater hazard. The new indirect interpret the residential construction work as satisfied both of the following elements. Then use of the structure by building built and be as home dwelling. The structure being built must be constructed in traditional wood frame construction materials method. The limited use of the structural steel of the predominantly wood framed home, such as steel I-beam to help with the support of wood framing, does not disqualify the structure for the being considered residential construction. Traditional wood frame construction material of the method has been characterized by framing material, wood and equivalent cold form sheet metal studs, framing and not steel concrete, wooden floor joists and roof structures, exterior wall structure, wood and equivalent cold form sheeted steel metal stud framing in the base area and brick and block. But the traditional wood frame construction techniques, and then it goes into an OSHA sheet. Alright, OSHA quick card. Fall protection general industry falls among the most of the common sphere of the work-related industry of the death. Employers must take the measure of the work with the place to prevent employee from falling off the overhead of the platforms, elevated work of the station, and holes over the floors and well to prevent employees from being injured from falls, and employees must guard every floor hole into the worker can accidentally walk by using rail under toe board over the floor hole over cover. Provide a guardrail toe board around every opening of the slide of the platform floor, running the way with 4 feet higher over the ground the next level. Regardless of the height of the worker, it can fall onto the dangerous machines. Equipment such as vast conveyor belt. The employers must be provided with a guardrail toe bars to prevent workers from falling and getting injured. Other means of fall protection may be required in certain jobs, include safety harness lines and safety nets and safety air railings and handrails. OSHA requires the employer to provide working condition-free known dangers, keeping the floors and worker areas clean and sanitary condition. Select, provide, and require personal protective equipment at no cost to the workers. Train workers in job hazards in the language that they can understand. Then it's in Spanish. Alright, moving on to the OSHA fact sheet. Reducing falls during the residential construction installation of roof trusses. Every year, residential construction workers experience the numerous fatal injuries due to the falls of the installing roof truss that presents as several training with the challenges with protecting workers from these falls. The fact of these sheet highlights over some of the hazards of the trusses and install with the list of some of the practical methods employers of the protect workers of the install of the truss with the risk of the during the truss installation. Accidental falls leading to the cause of the death of the construction work with the installing of the roof truss properly, particularly with the danger for the two reasons. One, truss construction usually occur with high above the ground. Two, truss are not stable until they are properly restrained and braced. Roof truss at the highest part of the house with the frame. The residential construction worker, some of them can fall and seriously injured with the even with the kill. But although the personal self-all arrest system PFAS are most widely used in the form of the fall of the protection residential construction that might not be suitable for the workers being installed over the roof of the truss of the section because they may not be stable to the place of the attach an anchor. Trusses are designed to support the weight of the top of the bottom units. If the trusses are properly restrained when the brace they are weakly, it will pull to the side, subject to lateral forces can occur with the truss-mounted falling protection system bearing the full weight of the falling of the worker. Your personal fall arrest system needs strong anchor points that can hold the sudden weight of the falling worker. No anchor with a single connection point, such as the strap, an anchor, or bolt-on anchor will protect the falling worker who is attached to a single truss. Other systems such as the scaffold lift of the ladders can be used to protect the workers fully interconnected. The multi-truss sections, if they have been appropriately braced and secured. Osha requires follow the protection measure for the residential construction activity 6 feet or more above the lower level. The result of the employer must plan ahead, ensure that they have the right system in place, that all the workers are properly trained before the jobs begin. And ensure that the personal fall arrest system is designed to safely stop the fall before the worker strikes the lower level. Includes the 3 major components. Anchorage, which is the other component of the personal fall arrest system, are anchored. A full body harness, marker worn by the worker. Connector, lanyard, lifeline, linking the harness for the anchor, the rib stitch, lanyard, deceleration device, typically of the part of the system. For more information, requirements for PFAS, refer to Title 29, 1926, 502D. Remember the fall arrest system. Workers must only use a full body harness. Body belts can cause series of injuries during the fall. OSHA prohibits their use as part of the fall arrest system. If the worker falls using a single truss at the anchor point with the whole truss assembly can collapse. So such structural failures puts worker lives and the entire building at risk. How to reduce the during initial truss installation. Guardrails are personal fall arrest systems. Conventional fall with a protection more practical. All favor the truss installation instead of the employer should plan with use the other message over the ground and some of the scaffold aerial lifts ladders to keep the workers safe. Ground assembly by some of the truss in the section of the ground when the employer can greatly reduce the risk of the falls of the worker. Secondly, where the truss can be sheathed while the chain still on the ground. Peak of the anchor, the lifeline is being pre-installed before the section of life to play with many of the finers. Efficient pre-assemble the truss section on the ground, then lift the crane so that the workers can securely section the building and the frame. Lifts depending on the building layout with the tasks involved with the aerial scissors may be the option for the setting of the truss. For the lifting of the lift provides a stable elevated platform for which the workers operate, but the work must follow all safety procedures connecting all operations inside of the lift with the basket of the other requirements using lifts refer to Title 29, 1926, 453 aerial lifts. Your scaffolds, when properly constructed, even the internal and external scaffold, provide with a suitable protection with the truss of the setting with the task. For example, the bracket scaffold placed on the inside and outside of the wall, outside of the building, provide large, stable working over the workers that ensure the safety of the operating load limit. The bracket scaffold of the system. Workers should always follow the manufacturer's instruction, consult with a qualified person for the other requirements of the scaffold. For the Title 29, 1926 L scaffold. Alright, ladders. For certain truss setting job of the platform, step ladders provide with the table the work of the platform works, particularly with a helpful setup of the inside of the building. Workers should always use the ladder safety following the requirements spelled out in Title 29, 1926, subpart X of the stairway ladders. Your spreader, engineering spreader with the install on the core of the manufacturer instructs the distributed with the fourth of the personal falling and arrest system across the multi-frame truss. Roof trusses do not need to be sheeted to use a spreader. The engineer appropriate anchor device is reusable and can be uninstalled required quickly. A qualified personnel should decide whether the spreader is suitable for the use for the anchor. Alright, after complete truss section is fully installed, once the assembled truss section has been set and secured with an attachment point with the anchor device. For this point on, the personal fall arrestment system can be used to protect the workers while they install additional trusses for the roofing sheath. Truss section. Multiple typical 4 individual trusses are interconnected, fully stressed. The section has been restrained brace. Sheeted from the corner of the manufacturing instruction can provide suitable structure to establish anchor point Anchors. Fixed anchor provides secure point where workers there have lifelines and part of the personal fall arrest system anchors and with the must meet 5,000 pound strength requirement maintained safely. Factor list 2 under the supervision of the qualified Title 29, 1926, 502 D15 C29. It's CFR Control Cover Regulation 1926 Subpart M Fall Protection for more information and additional requirements. Different types of anchors of these systems include, but are not limited to, peak anchors, strap anchors, bolt-on anchors. Once a group truss has been properly restrained and braced with the roof peak anchor that provides unusable tie-off point for the lifeline, multiple peak anchor lifelines protect the self of the workers. After confirmation above the manufacturer's peak, some of the peak anchor is strong enough to serve tie-off points of the two lifelines. Peak anchors can be used for the fall protection during the later roofing task while setting another truss section. Our written fall protection plans. Employer does not use ladders or scaffold the aerial lift that can demonstrate that it is not feasible. The wood created with a greater height of the use of the conventional fall protection equipment, the guardrail, safety net of personal fall arrest systems when working at height 6 feet or greater. Employer must develop the written site-specific fall protection plan in accordance with Title 29, 1926, 502K. Plan must be prepared and qualified personnel defined in 29 Scope Regulation 1926, 32M. This person must could be an owner, supervisor, worker with the extent of the knowledge, training, and experience with the fall protection is able to solve problems relating to the fall protection state. OSHA has approved the state of the plans and made additional requirements for the written fall protection plans. Site-specific falling protection plans must be documented at each location. Even the conventional fall protection equipment is not feasible to create with the greater half of the plan. Must also describe the alternative methods that the employer uses for the worker and protect the fall of the worker, and their supervisor must be trained with the proper use of the fall protection methods. Conventional fall protection equipment can be reduced, eliminating chance of the fatal fall with the written site specification fall protection plan to show the protection continuities, even when conventional fall protection method is determined not feasible. And it shows OSHA standard 29 CFR 1926 subpart M fall protection that's available online. OSHA compliance guidelines standard residential construction SD 0311002. State plan guidance is OSHA approved state plans. Additional requirement of residential roofing state plans. For more information requirements, please visit OSHA Gov DCSP OSB state standards. Help the employers, and that's another NIOSH prevention through design program. OSHA fact sheet. Alright. Reducing fall during residential construction, installing a tile roof. While working on the roofs, with asking risking fall, with using the fall arrest of the system, the most common way to control the falls of the floor in residential construction. This is not only the way to the work protect the worker. There are other options. The fact sheet that describes the various steps of the roof and contractors can be taken during the roof job to keep the workers from falling. Workers can fall while tiling roofs. Roofers installing the tile roofs with permanent injury with the depth of the fall, with the experienced roof with exposed by the unpredictable fall heads caused by uneven sheathing, sudden gusts of wind, loose of the roof, and material surface from the back becomes slick when wet. Taking appropriate fall protection measures to reduce the risk and save the life of the employer should provide training program for each worker that might be exposed to the fall. The hazard of the program shall enable all the worker to recognize the hazard of falling shall the train. Each worker and procedure to be filed in order to minimize the hazard for all rear protection training requirements. See Title 29, 1926, 503. Tile roof safely important step of the being job with the focus for the identified with the fall protection need with the roof determined with the pre-install with the anchors available to that can be used if not being playing immediately to identify with those systems needed to protect the workers from falls having available for the workers and reporting to the job. Communicating your needs. The contractor of the building, sheeting of the roof structure will need fall protection equipment. The worker performing the job of the pre-construction meeting and the first meeting on the work site after the building constructor would leave the roof anchors or other fall protection equipment in the place while after sheeting is completed. Using right equipment, roofers must use fall protection equipment to meet OSHA requirements whenever the work of the 5-6 feet or below lower level states with OSHA state and approved state plans but having additional plans. Personal fall arrest system is designed safely before the worker strikes the lower level. That includes the three major components: anchorage, which the other components of the personal fall arrest systems are rigged. Full body harness worn by the worker. Connectors such as the lanyard, lifeline linkage for the harness, anchored to the ripstick, lanyard deceleration, but typically part of the system. And then for more information, requirement of the PFAS Title 29 1926 502D. Remember the fall arrest system workers must use the full body harness. Body belts can cause serious injury during fall. OSHA prohibits the use of the parts of the fall arrest system. Requirements beyond OSHA requirements depending on the task involved, where and the work are taking place in the other circumstances, specifically tile roofing contractors may be able to protect. The workers are using the following equipment: the scaffold, the airlifts, the personal fall arrest system, guardrails, preparing the work safely against hazards important, preventing fatal fall with having good fall protection equipment. When working begins on the roof, employers must primarily prepare with site with a protecting workers situation that could cause them to fall. Wet or windy weather, roofing should only be performed when weather permits. Winding and rain put on workers and greatly reduce falling with the damping the wind and weather, putting on work holds on until condition will improve. Skylifts and open every year. Work dies from falling from the opening of the work surface without roof. The employers must protect the employees working around skylights and roof openings while the cover the PFAS guard lines. Accessing the roof. Safe the roof access is important to have the effective fall protection. While on the roof, employers must provide safe access to make sure that the workers know how to get up and down from the roof and in a way that minimizes the risk of falling. Extensive ladders must extend at least 3 feet above the roof level to ensure the safety of the access of the roof. The other requirements of the safety of the ladders are to refer to Title 29 CFR 1926 subpart 10, stairway ladders. Staging your materials, preventing falls, and much of the reducing risk of the around the workers and about having the fall protection equipment. To be sure to put all the work materials in a safe spot. Loose tile with handheld equipment that cause the tripping habit of the roof surface. The workers can fall on the hand or trip and slipping. On some of the days, did not see the walking on the roof with the carrying of the material of the workers. She keeps the material on the down sloped edge to prevent the materials from falling onto the worker. Materials are dropped. Are performing edge work when installing the first row of the tile of the roof of the workers of their self with the protection option to include with the personal protection. Fall arrest system, scaffold, the aerial lifts can provide safe access for the edges. Scaffold properly constructed, even the external of the scaffold can provide with a suitable check for the roof, the repair of the edge of the roof, of the pumping, pump jack for the scaffold, even the screw for the platform, which for the work for the can be raised, lowered, and specific for the task for the stress of the working underneath the end leaves and guard rails along scaffold to provide the fall protection of the requirement scaffold to refer to Title 29, 1926 subpart L scaffold, aerial lift, the portable boom, and the can also allow roofer to easily access the leading edge of the roof with the adjustable angle of the working on the roof, all the grades, the easy place for the workers of their lifeline to work on the basket. Air care must be taken loading of material to not overload the lift. If the requirements of the lift, the Title 29, 1926 453 aerial lifts. Anchorage. When working in the air with the scaffold lift, if it is not practical to work with the PFAS of the secure anchor, the OSHA require that the anchor for the personal fall arrest system are able to hold at least 5,000 pounds of weight per person, maintain safety factor of at least twice the impact load under the supervision qualified until 29, 1926 502D5. 15. Anchors must be anchored to sheeting alone, and because it must be strong but not ensure the holding of the sudden weight with the falling of the worker. Anchors should be fixed with a trunk structure feature. The likely sheeted truss allow the follow the manufacturer instruction and consult with the qualified personnel with the install of the anchor. The chosen anchor system and even the fall protection employers number the option. For example, peak anchor at the top of the roof of the peak anchor is typically solid, non-moving the piece of the share of the anchor to the truss of the underneath. Permanent D-rings and extensive D-ring anchors are attached to the truss frame. They are often removed after the job is done, although they can be permanently on the roof. Installing anchor above the area being built, choosing an anchor appropriate to the title type anchor depending on the roof. Design the best location might be peak of the roof with directly over the truss. Leaving the anchors in play with practical concern with leaving the anchors in play with the most current with the job is simpler with the average of the burden of the roof and the future roof and not always with less established with the construction process with skylight windows. Solar panels may also be installed later during the construction work installed with these units also needs the fall protection anchors. Alright, written fall protection plans. Employer does not use the ladder scaffold the aerial lift to demonstrate that it is not feasible to create with greater have to with the conventional fall protection equipment, the guardrail, safety net, personal fall, the arrestor system. Working with the heights of 6 feet with greater than employer must develop the written site specifically to print fall protection plan in the accordance with Title 29, 1926 502K. Plan must be prepared and qualified person defined in Title 29 CFR 1926 32M. The person could consider owner and supervisor worker with the extent of the knowledge, training, with experience with the fall protection is able to solve the problems relating to the fall protection. State with the OSHA approved state plans that may have additional requirements for the written fall protection plans. Specific with the fall protection plan with the document each of the location with the conventional fall protection equipment out with the feasible creative the greater head of the plan must be able to discover the alternative method of the employer while you'll use the worker, predictive all the workers with the supervisor with the training with the proper use of the other protection method. The conventional all fall protection equipment can be reviewed to eliminate chances for the fall written specific to fall protection ensure that all the fall protection continue with the eventual fall protection for the method determined not feasible. And then it goes to your OSHA standard 1920, Title 29, 1926 subpart M, fall protection, OSHA compliance guidances, state plan compliance guidance, residential construction help with the employers, and OSHA prevention for the design program. And then we'll move on to reducing fall during the residential construction roof repair. Residential roof repair requires workers to operate with existing and largely intact roof. These roofs are rarely designed with a fall protection mind. With the roof of the making them repair must plan ahead to take steps to reduce the fall. And the fact sheet is described with the fall protection method. The contractor can incorporate it into the roof repair job as the roofer can work safely. Risk during roof repair. Roof is typically working heights of the plan, put them in risk of fall with the roof of the repair with the phase with the same head, but they increase the risk of the roof, shows the long integrity of if they are uncertain of the fall protection over the roof with already weatherproof. The employer shall provide training program each of the worker that might be exposed to the fall. However, the program shall enable the worker to recognize the heads of falling, shall train the worker when the procedures to be followed to minimize these hazards. The fall protection requirement at the time refer to Title 29, 1926, 503. When the all case of the employment evaluate the hand to take the measure for the risk of fall, patching and repairing job with the roof with a several options include the scaffolding, aerial lift, various types of the conventional fall protection. The best choice depends on whether the repair whether it's needed on the type of the building. How to reduce structural integrity. Employees must determine the structural integrity of the roof and all necessary precautions to protect the workers from before repair begins with the worker notice signs of the structural deterioration. As old weatherproofing is removed, the end component person should evaluate the area. At the roof step, the excess of the table, the platform, the damaged section of the roof, along with the edge of the roof that can be worked with the scaffold, the aerial lift, the work, regardless of the weather condition of the roof of the equipment, provide safe with a stable work platform for which the workers can reach in the area of the beach repaired. Lift, depending on the building and the layout of the task involved with the scissors, aerial may be an option for the roof working near the edge. Lifting provide stable elevated platforms for which workers can operate safely. With a small task, aerial lift might be more efficient, but the installing scaffold plus the aerial lifts are practical way to customize the height above and below the roof level. The must also be careful to take them with the loading of material to not overload the lift. For more information on the safety of the operation, aerial scissor lift for Title 29, 1926, 453, aerial lift Title 29, CFR 1926, 452B, mobile scaffold. Scaffold, when properly constructed, the external scaffold can provide suitable protection roof repair with along the edge of the roof of the pump and jack of the scaffold to offer secure for the platform for which the work can be raised and lowered for the specific task, such as the working underneath the eaves, guardrails installed upon underside opening inside of the scaffold to protect the fall protection on the other side of the requirements of the scaffold to refer to Title 29, 1926, subpart L scaffold. Working higher up on the roof scaffold, working farther up the roof with the arm of the reef of the scaffold so the provide fall protection from the properly construction. The top of the rail may have the extended with the higher of the 45 inches above the roof surface adequate to protect the workers from falls. For other requirements, how to build the secure scaffold, refer to Title 29, 1926, subpart L of the scaffold. Personal fall arrest system. The personal fall arrest system is another tool available to the roof during the repair of the job of the personal fall arrest system. Usually, system of choice of the moves must roof of the breakdown in any of these other parts, conditions, and results. Position of the workers. Should your personal fall arrest system designed to stop the fall before the worker's lower level. Include the three major components: the anchor, the harness, and the lanyard lifeline. And then it says install finding using anchors. Unless other roofing job is hatching or repair with involved with the otherwise intact roof, they're selecting the location and install of the anchor is a critical step of avoiding fatal fall. Anchor gives the worker the secure point with the lifeline with the fall arrest system. Most time with the existing residential will have not permanent anchors available to use the fall protection. However, the qualified person shall survey with the roof to conform with the case. The anchor of the fall arrest system must be meet 5,000 pounds square strength with a must safety should require factor at least 2 of the impact loads under supervision qualified person. Be fastened to the top core of the frame probe with the during with the construction anchors could use them may be installed with the original roof using the lower profile system, sometimes made to match the roof color, but less obvious for the ground that you have available. Existing anchors might be effective with the pouring port over the workers or at the tile. Before using the tile, points of the qualified person impact with it, ensure that they can support the weight of the following worker. The qualified person shall make sure anchor is solid and unbent in the well fixed with the load frame below with the tile 29-1926 subpart M. Appendix C with the guidance of the testing anchor. The existing anchors are rare. Exiting anchors are rare, but they become more common builder in praising the practice of the design out hazard prevention thorough design diagram. National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health promotes construction practice to minimize the risk of the workers' easy design process. Alright, retrofit with anchors. If the roof was not fitted with a permanent anchor, the employer can install with the first phase of the on the job. The retrofit of the program should be planned with the roof of the remain with the intact that does not leak for the after the job is complete with the leak with the necessary to replace with additional shingle to rest reset with a couple shingles on the tiles. Touching a new anchor roofer must be fixed to the trough of the raft or structure underneath the roof. The sheathing does not provide any support itself. Also, the following manufacturing instructions consult with a professional engineer for the proper installation. However, there are some of the options that can be used, and depending on the roof design, peak anchor with a apex roof is a peak anchor, typically solid, unmoved in pieces, secured with a truss underneath with the permanent D-rings, and expanded with the D-ring anchors that are attached to the truss frame can be removed, but the job is done left permanently on the roof. Consider another anchor location. Depending on the roof design, some of the roofs achieve the peak of the roof directly over the trough that was above the worker will not be easily replaced. Some of the section ridge cap of the anchor with the remove of the job of the complete, although the following anchor of the manufacturer's installation C, tile 29-1926 subpart M, fall protection, more information, additional requirements depending on the anchor installation in use, and anchor points. Depending on the site of the repair job of the normal of the workers need to be on the roof, it might be necessary to install more than one anchor and energize horizontal lifeline or any way to increase the area of the worker to protect the system should be installed with the following manufacturer instruction or supervision qualified person. Leave anchors in place. Practical. Consider the leave anchors and roof in place, making the current job simpler, reduce the burden on the roofers to the future. Safe repair, an important step before beginning the job found to identify the fall protection needs. Guard against falls of the skylights over the roof opening with guardrails and personal fall the rest system protect the cover the support 2 times the weight of the worker. It's necessary to protect the workers below the fall debris with the shelf of the workers on the roof. Remove the old roofing material with the repair area of the work. Should be carefully air over the power cords for nail guns, other electrical equipment. The worker steps on one and the hose of the cord will slip underfoot. Leads you fall. Remember to place the remove the shingle to replace the tiles in a safe location. If unsecured with this material, the visually blended against the roof and create with a dangerous tripping hazard. The new material stage on the roof should be placed so that they are safe and secure. Written fall protection plan. If the employer does not use the ladder scaffold, the aerial lift can demonstrate that it is not feasible to work, feasible or would create with greater hazard to you with conventional fall protection, equipment, guardrails, safety nets, personal fall arrest system. When working at heights greater than 600 feet or greater, the employer must develop a written site specific with the protection plan in accordance with the Title 29-1926-502K. Plan must be prepared. Qualified personnel defined in Title 29-1926-32M. Person could be an owner, supervisor, worker that extensive with the knowledge, training, and experience with the fall protection system is able to solve the problems relating to the fall protection state. Osha approved state plans and made additional requirements for the written fall protection plans. The site-specific fall protection plan must document each location with the use of the conventional fall protection equipment not feasible to create with the greater half of the plan. Must also describe the alternative methods that employers use with its workers and protect the falls workers there, and supervisors must be trained with the proper use of the other fall protection methods. Conventional fall protection equipment can be reduced, eliminating chance of the fatal fall. Written specifically fall protection plans ensure fall protection continues, even the conventional fall protection method is determined not to be feasible. And then it gives you your fault callers and working safely with electricity. And we'll see how long the tape is. It's an hour long. We'll cut it right there.